All right. Hello, everybody. I hope you all are doing well. It's the NBA Tournament Strategy Show where we look at last night's slate, we look at today's slate, and then, of course, on the pre-lock show at 5:30 p.m., which is for VIP members only, we talk about leverage and core plays. But let's go ahead, guys. Look at last night. It was a good one. Last night was a good night, which was nice to have. This was the nuts winning lineup last night. I had a good night, pretty profitable. I think my core plays worked out pretty well. I think the only guy that might not have done as well is Josh Hart. I think he came back around towards the end of the night. But anyway, Emmanuel quickly, he was a core play that went pretty well. Jordan Goodwin was a core play once again, so glad he came through for us. Quentin Grimes, we forced exposure to on the pre-lock show, so thankfully that went very well for us. Royce O'Neal was a bit sneaky. I wasn't on him, to be honest with you. He was the guy I missed. Probably wouldn't have really had too much exposure to him, to be honest. Obi Toppin was a core play, so that went pretty well. Tyus Jones was a guy we forced exposure to on the pre-lock show, which also went well. Bobby Portis, we forced a little bit of exposure to, but I didn't have as much as I wish I did. And then Jaren Jackson Jr. was a leverage play, and we had a ton of him. So, yeah, overall, just a really good night across the board. We had some members do well. Plural Boy, nice 1K win. Pick Mott, nice 1K win. A lot of other guys had good nights too, but nice to have those. Dave, what's up, man? Appreciate you. And definitely, guys, do hit the like button, share, and subscribe. Appreciate it a lot. It helps us out a lot here. So appreciate y'all's support. Let's go ahead and jump in today's slate. Yesterday was good, but today, let's make it even better. Starting off, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers. Y'all, when I tell you this is like a weird 5-game slate where you're gonna play a lot of guys who you might not have even known was in the NBA, we start off hot and heavy with that when it comes to the Cavs tonight. Get ready, sit back, relax, because the Cavs have a long list of guys who are out. Donovan Mitchell out, Darius Garland out, Evan Mobley out, Jared Allen out, Karis LeVert out, Okoro Windler out. That's their starting lineup, guys. All of their starters are missing time tonight, which is why you see the dark green on these guys from like a projection standpoint, because they're popping, because all of their bench players are 3K and they're gonna see decent run tonight. Lineup that we're expecting from like a starting lineup perspective is Ricky Rubio starting at the 1, C.D. Osman starting, Lamar Stevens starting, Dean Wade starting, and Robin Lopez starting. I'm going to play all these guys, to be honest with you. I think most people will. I will take some shots on some of the lower owned Cavs here, because there's always guys who are going to be a little bit lower owned than they should. If I had to guess, probably guys like Lamar Stevens might go a little, and by lower owned, I mean like they might be like 15 to 20% owned. But I want to be over the field on these guys. They're going to make tonight's slate a lot more fun for me. So I'm going to be heavily, I'm going to have a lot of exposure to these guys. Again, the reason for that, they're 3K. They're all of these guys should see 20 plus minutes. Usage should be there, since it's not really a usage monster on this team. You guys who have been playing DFS for a while, yeah, Danny Green, 3K. I hate Danny Green so much, but that's my own personal bias. I think he's not projecting that great, even with all the guys that they have out. So hopefully we don't have to worry about that too much, but can't not mention Danny Green here. But yeah, love the Cavs tonight. The Magic are a little bit more boring than the crazy amount of exposure I'll have to the Cavs tonight. The Magic, they're healthy. Like Jonathan Isaac's been out for a while, so that doesn't really move the needle for me too much. Again, the matchup against Cleveland here, none of the data that anyone has matters, because all of their starters are out. They're typically a pretty good defense. Doesn't matter because all their starters are gone. I think this could be an interesting spot for Wendell Carter Jr. He's on my radar as a potential leverage play, as is Markelle Fultz. I like the matchup. I like the price tag. No one's really that expensive on this slate, so we're going to have money to spend anyway. But if Wendell Carter Jr. and Markelle Fultz come in at a little bit lower ownership than I think they should, then they're on my radar as like potential leverage plays. Paolo Banchero is just a guy I rarely force exposure to, but if he's not getting any ownership, then he could be interesting too. But again, we have much more interesting games later on in this slate. Not trying to get too much exposure to these healthy teams outside of like one-offs. Like that's my strategy with a lot of really good value on this slate. And then there's like the healthy teams. The healthy teams, I'm just taking some one-offs on for low ownership, but the vast majority of my lineup will be filled with like all this nice value we have. Of course, when we have this value, sometimes they burn us. We don't know much about these guys. We don't know what they bring to the table. So there's always an argument to be made for fading the chalk here. I'm not going to, but there's an argument. For the Heat, Bam Adebayo is questionable. Kyle Lowry is questionable. And then Nikola Jovic has been out for a while now. The only thing I care about here is will Bam Adebayo play tonight? If he's out, we see Gabe Vincent see a boost in usage. Tyler Hero see an increase in usage. Jimmy Butler see an increase in usage. This is a pretty tough matchup against the Sixers tonight, but if Bam's out, I am more interested in playing Jimmy. Guys, we're getting close to the playoffs, so we're going to have to actually start playing guys from this Miami team. I'm not excited about it, but I am aware that it's something that I might have to do here soon. But yeah, if Bam Adebayo's out, I'm interested in taking shots on guys like Butler, Hero, and maybe Vincent. If he's healthy, I don't have much interest in this team. You can always play Jimmy Butler in a close game, though. We talk about that all the time. Still viable here. For the Sixers, they have some big potential news. We have Tyrese Maxey listed as questionable. DeAnthony Melton is also listed as questionable, and then PJ Tucker is listed as questionable. Biggest thing here is Tyrese Maxey. If he's out, obviously Joel Embiid, Harden, and Harris all become much more viable on the slate. For me, I would really just kind of focus on Harden and Embiid, and then put a little bit of exposure on Harris. But I would be much more interested in both Harden and Embiid on the slate if we get the Maxey news. Also, Bam Adebayo, if he's out, obviously softer matchup for Joel Embiid than if he plays. I'm not overly concerned about the matchup. If everyone's healthy, oddly enough, Joel Embiid, I will probably have exposure to, but not someone I'm going to try to force into my lines. And what I mean by that is because we have so much value on this slate, we have to spend the money on somebody. And Joel Embiid is just one of those options, so he'll probably be in the mix. His matchup's not really fantastic. His price tag's not fantastic. There's not much that's making me feel like I need to force exposure to him, but I'll have some just because of the way this slate is shaking up. And for those of you that don't know, by force, I put min and max exposures on guys. And by forcing a guy in my line, I mean, I'm going to put a minimum percentage on them. Next up, the Portland Trailblazers. Those of you who have been playing DFS the last few weeks know that there's a lot of insanity here. Make things more interesting for the Trailblazers, Shaedon Sharpe is listed as questionable. Shaedon Sharpe, if he doesn't play tonight, that's really impactful for this team. Trendon Watford is listed as questionable. Watford is another really big questionable tag for them. Matisse Thybulle doubtful. Cam Reddish is questionable. The starting lineup, per usual, will be everything for me here. If Watford and Sharpe play, I don't have as much interest in Mays. If Watford's out, we saw Mays have like a pretty strong performance last time out. This is a really soft matchup against the Spurs too. So I'm open to it as long as one of Shaedon Sharpe and or Trendon Watford are out. Mays is priced a bit more appropriately here, so we're not getting the same value on these Portland Trailblazers like we were earlier. Drew Eubanks is still really cheap at $5,900. He'll show up in a lot of our lines because of the value he brings to the table. But just in general, no one's really standing out right now if everyone's healthy. But I think we'll get some injury news here, so I'm not overly concerned about the lack of value because we just know a few of these guys aren't going to play. There's no need for them to anymore. For the Spurs, We have Keldon Johnson listed as questionable. Zach Collins is probable. Vassal's out. Sachan's out. A lot of these guys have been out. Devontae Graham is out. Romeo Langford is questionable. A lot of this news is going to matter more than I want it to. Preferably, I just wouldn't have to worry about it. But if Keldon Johnson misses this game, I know a lot of people are sick of playing Zach Collins. I get it. But I'm totally fine playing Zach Collins there. Drew Eubanks is an awful defender. And so I think Collins can definitely benefit here in this matchup. He's fine, even if Keldon Johnson plays, but I like him a lot more if Keldon Johnson is out. Other guys to see an increasing usage are guys like Malachi Branham, who I already like a little bit with Devontae Graham being ruled out. Obviously, if Johnson's out, that's what gives him the real boost on this slate. And then Trey Jones also sees a nice increase in usage as well. So definitely some viable options. I would even mention Keita Bates-Diop if Romeo Langford ends up missing this game too. So if Kevin Johnson and Romeo Langford are out, that's a little bit of a boost to Keita Bates-Diop for me. But he's priced pretty appropriately, so I'm not like overly concerned about that situation. For the Thunder, we keep the good times going with another questionable tag on Lou Dort. If Lou Dort misses time, the guys who see an increase in usage here are SGA and Jalen Williams. I think we would expect Isaiah Joe to move into the starting lineup. We know Isaiah Joe likes to shoot. I prefer to play Isaiah Joe when SGA is out. So if Lou Dort's out, I'm going to play more SGA. Also, I'll force some exposure to Jalen, Jalen Williams on this team as well. Outside of that, if everyone's healthy, then the exact same story with Embiid, with SGA. I'm looking forward to seeing where ownership projections come out at. I would expect both SGA and Embiid to have some decent ownership on this slate, and so I doubt they'll be under-owned. If they happen to be under-owned, then they would be leverage plays for me tonight, but more often than not, I'll probably just have natural exposure to them because I'm so heavy on some of the chalky value. For the Jazz, another team that looks interesting tonight, but it's not really a new situation, so it feels a little bit more boring, at least for me. Lauri Markkanen is out, Jordan Clarkson's out, Sexton's out, Rudy Gay's out, then Walker Kessler's been out for a while now. We know THT sees a boost in these situations. He's going to be in a decent amount of our lines tonight. Abaji, Olynyk, Dunn, all of these guys see an increase for me. Olynyk's a little bit expensive, so there's some risk involved there. I want to see where his ownership is. If he's a little bit low owned, let me check the sim at 6,900. Yeah, he has some upside, but I still like Zach Collins more than him. And DeAndre Ayton, who's cheaper. So a little bit hard for me to pull the trigger on Kelly O tonight, just because there are other bigs I like more than him on the slate, but interesting. I think I would prioritize guys like THT, Chris Dunn, Abaji, Lucas Samanic. I'm not as familiar with. He's projecting pretty well, though, so I'll have to look into him a little bit and see what's going on there. But definitely another team that I plan on having plenty of exposure to. So I like these guys tonight. I'm not really interested in Simone Fontecchio. He just hasn't been getting it done. He hasn't been seeing a lot of time either, so I'm not overly concerned about him. All right, last game on the slate, and it's not going to leave us bored. For the Nuggets, we have more questionable tags here that all matter a lot. Nikola Jokic is questionable. Jamal Murray is questionable. Aaron Gordon is questionable. Michael Porter Jr. is questionable. KCP is questionable. Pretty much all of their actual players are questionable, along with Zeke Naji. They have nothing to play for. They clinched the first spot in the West, and so if I had to guess, these guys probably wouldn't play tonight, but we've seen crazy things happen before where coaches like to see their players see a little bit of run. So that's pretty much the situation that we have going on here. Quite a few questionable tags. If these guys don't play, I mean, I think Bruce Brown's going to be in a fantastic spot. It would be like the obvious one. We've seen Jeff Green do a little bit better here recently in these spots. Bones Highland, he's not even on this team anymore, is he? I don't think. I know he used to see a boost in these situations, so I need to take him out. Reggie Jackson kind of takes on that role now. So Reggie Jackson could be interesting. Kanker would be interesting. I need to see a starting lineup there too. But definitely another team that we'll need to keep an eye out for. Hopefully get that news sooner rather than later, because that would really screw up the slate. So on the pre-lock show, we might talk about some strategies to kind of be ahead of the curve on that, just so we're prepared. For the Suns, they're healthy. They're healthy, and they should be pretty low owned tonight, which automatically makes them more viable for me from a leverage play standpoint. I wonder, the spread is growing at 9.5 points. I think everyone's kind of expecting the Nuggets to kind of throw the towel in on this one. But even with that still being said, DeAndre Ayton's in a really good spot here tonight. He's one of the bigs that I like a lot tonight, so I'll be forcing exposure to him if I'm not getting it naturally. Similar story of Devin Booker. I like his upside here. Kevin Durant just hasn't been in fantastic form. This could be a nice get right spot. So I'm really going to see where ownership falls with these guys before I make a final call. But all are interesting to me. With that being said, guys, just to revamp and recap everything, it's really going to be a Cavaliers night for me. I really like this team tonight. Also, the Utah Jazz are in a really good spot. And then the Nuggets could surprise everybody and give us a little bit of a shock. So we got to be prepared for that. Outside of that, each of the other games are more one-off situations for me. Try to target low-owned players and go from there. So, yeah, appreciate y'all sticking it out with me. There will be no show tomorrow. It's just a large slate. Everyone's going to be questionable, so it's a waste of time to do that show. But I look forward to seeing how everyone does tonight, and look forward to seeing you all on the pre-lock show. Peace out, guys.